Hey, my name is Adam, and over the last few years we've been making a lot of adjustments to the way that we do broadcast mixing, and it's always been in Ableton Live. We've always pulled in inputs from a console, whether it be over USB, AES-50, Dante. We've used this method, but the way that we've used plugins has changed a little bit over time, so I want to show you our latest rendition of how we have our template set up. This is a recording from a few weeks ago at my church, and we have all of our channels in here pre-recorded. So I want to show you how this works. We have, in this view, we have our computer. This channel is for the Pro Presenter computer, playing audio before and after services, videos, that kind of thing. Then we have immediately next our pastor, our handheld microphones, all of those. And on those channels, we actually don't have any third-party plugins. I've switched to completely using Ableton stock plugins because I've realized when I've done A/B tests, I haven't heard enough of a difference for me for it to be worth it to pay for and manage the extra licenses and the extra plugins, the space on the computer, as well as the processing power, because Ableton Live, the way that they have their built-in plugins, is very low CPU usage, as well as being able to see more information within the plugin chain. Whereas if you use a third-party plugin, you get a small square box that you have to open up to access any of the parameters. So I've found that I've been able to get just as good of a mix out of the stock plugins, save for drum replacement and vocal tuning, which I'll show you later in this video. So here on our first channel, we have the pastor microphone. First thing I want to talk about is this trim button. So this is something new. I've built this so that it's just one large button that says input trim, so you know what it is, and you're only allowed to boost or cut 10 dB. I've found anything more than that, you've got some serious issues with your gain management in front of house, and you need to address that. But sometimes you just need to pull back or push up a little bit of the volume. But if it were to be able to go to plus 10 or plus 15 or infinity, that could be an issue. So I just like to make sure that we have this set to where it needs to be. This was at -2, I'll put it back there. But you can see that if you were to accidentally pull too far, you still can only mess it up by going -10 dB on this input trim. Also, for a little bit of a safety feature, only being able to go up 10 dB, you're not going to hurt anyone's ears or make as terrible sounds as there could be if you were able to push that trim up all the way. The next thing we have here is a plug-in chain, which is a audio effect rack. So here's a blank audio effect rack. You can see that there's nothing in it, and you can put effects in it. So I've got these preset audio effect racks, with this one having an EQ, a speech enhancer, then a de-esser, which I have pretty well set, so I just keep hidden there so that I can see the glue compressor, because this is something that might need more attention during the service, and I want to make sure that I can always see it. But as you can see, with here having Ableton stock plugins, you can see everything at once. You can see the signal coming through. We can get to a section of the teaching here.
It's going to be long, and and you'll be here till lunchtime. And I'm sorry, there's nothing at this.
So as we're watching, we can see, even I can turn the RTA on the EQ, and we're able to see as he's speaking.
Piece of love. It's this time to just pause.
So you're able to see everything at once, at a glance, whereas that was not possible with the third-party plugins. I really enjoy that. It's a similar process for the handheld microphones. You'll see it's very, very similar. Not much difference there. Next, we have our vocal bus group, and all that has is a slight EQ and a little bit of glue compression just to bring those vocals together. And an individual channel, again, we have our input trim, but then we have our first, or one of our only two, third-party plugins, and we're using Auto-Tune by Antares. We've also used WaveTune Live, but either one of those is going to help you just really lock in those vocals by keeping them in tune. We just leave them to chromatic. After that, we've got an EQ very slight EQ, not a whole lot going on with this one. But then we have two compressors. The first compressor is capturing and reducing the peaks, and then we just have more of a leveler compressor after that. And we have a multi-band compressor. This is something within Ableton that I'd never looked at before, and then once I was able to decipher exactly how it works and get it dialed in the way that I liked it, I realized that it could replace the multi-band compression that I was using from Waves. And then at the end of our chain, we have a de-esser. Again, not as intuitive as the Waves de-essers, but I was able to listen, use my ears, make some adjustments, and get it to a spot where I thought this is just as good as the Waves compressor. So let's take a listen to our vocal chain here. So I'm going to show you just the raw audio.
And the saints, my heart will still be singing, my song will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified, just let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh.
So you can hear that a lot is happening there, and I'm going to open this up so we can listen to that within the context of our mix. So I'll turn off everything again on this vocal, raw vocal, just within the whole mix this time. So I am very happy with being able to use only vocal tuning as a third-party plugin and everything else as the stock plugins. Very pleased with this sound. One thing that I like to do is also collapse this so you can see more of what's happening. If there's a plugin that you're using that you don't really need to access or see all the time, when you double-click the title of it, you can have it just take up very little real estate on your screen. I like to see the EQ, I like to see the compressors, the de-esser I already have pretty well set, so I like to leave that hidden unless there's an issue. And then I can see all of the metering, I can see the input and output of each individual plugin to make sure that my gain structure is good across the board. After our vocals, we have a 3 set of crowd mics, so we have 3 in the room, 2 on the outsides, 1 in the center, and we're able to mix those together. These have this EQ on them that kind of focuses it on what you want to hear from the congregation with the singing. Not a lot of the high end. You might get some hiss or too much clarity from the PA. With the low end, again, we don't need to hear the subs, we just need to hear people's voices. So we've got this EQ for that. We also have a limiter on that group. And then on the individual channels, we just have a very simple low cut filter on each of these. That's all that is happening, and it's collapsed because we don't want to adjust that. We're not going to need any low end. And then on our group, this is just a extra step to make sure that we've got the low cut set, and we can do that on the whole group instead of having to go into each individual channel. So that's our crowd mics. And then with our drums, we have an electronic drum kit here, but we're still replacing the kick. I just really love this kick sample that we're using more than what we're using at front of house with just what's on the drum brain. So we're just only replacing the kick. Everything else is just straight from the drum brain. Even though we're using a sample, we still are doing a little bit of EQ and compression in post, just to make sure that we're getting it to fit within the mix the way that we want. So same thing, just simple EQ and compressor to get the snare to fit into our broadcast mix. Our hi-hat, we don't even have anything on it. I would probably put a low-cut filter on this. But again, not a lot of processing happening on the drums because we're using an electronic kit. We're still doing a glue compressor on our drums, and this is different than the parallel compression or the drum smack or the drum crush, whatever you want to call it. We'll show you that in a little bit, but we're just doing a little bit of compression on our drum kit here. Next, we have a group for an entire band, so it's going to be bass guitar, keys, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, any other instruments that are not going to be in the drum kit. So on this Sunday we had bass. We have a bass drive channel, and so this adds some high end, some distortion. It just brings some of those frequencies out of the bass guitar so you can hear it a little bit more clearly, especially if you're listening on a system, or the congregation is listening on a system that's not going to have as much low end. They'll still be able to hear what the bass is doing. We have keys. We have keys 2. We have acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, and then some tracks that are happening. So on the tracks, similar to the drum kit, just a little bit of EQ and compression to get it to fit within the mix the way that we want. On our electric guitar, this person was using a Helix, so we just have a little bit of EQ and compression. Then with our acoustic guitar, just some EQ and compression. You can get so far with just those 2 adjustments, knowing how to EQ it properly and compress it properly. And then finally we have our master burn channel, and this is capturing our master mix, so you can listen back and hear specifically what happened during the broadcast mix, and if you did a great job and you want to use it for putting it as a song and planning center, or if you want to use it as a YouTube video, you can just pull this one file and have the mix that you did during the service. It's also great for review. So if I were to go here and solo this channel or cue this channel so that all we're listening to is what was actually mixed on this Sunday, we can hear whoever the broadcast engineer was that day, what the mix that they did was. So let's give it a listen.
Sun in glory with all the angels and the saints. My heart will still be singing. My song will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified.
So there we were able to just listen to a section of the song, what was recorded, what went to broadcast that day, and I could go back and say, hey, you did a great job with these things, maybe the tracks were too loud or whatever. You can use it as a review tool, which is really great. So that covers our template. It's a very quick overview, not a lot of individual listening to each channel on itself, but I hope that this gave you some ideas on how you can do your broadcast mix. And if you're not a part of Broadcast Mix Mastery or Worship Ministry School, you can join with the information below this video, and included in that is this template as well as all of the presets. So I've made a lot of presets for different channels that are just a great starting place. So here we have our preset. We have some presets for drums, both acoustic and electric drums, and we have some instruments. So here, this is kind of, I've deleted some things and I've customized it to this church. So here we have this mandolin, or this guitar specifically for Josiah, this djembe with just a D6, miking it the way that we want to EQ and compress it there. So I know that was a pretty quick overview of what we have going on in the latest rendition of our Ableton Live broadcast template. I mostly just wanted to share with you how much I've been enjoying using these stock plugins from Ableton Live, and how we're not really needing as many third-party plugins outside of drum replacement and vocal tuning, and we've been able to get great mixes out of it. This template, as well as the presets, are available to Worship Ministry School students within the Broadcast Mix Mastery course. So if you're interested in growing yourself and growing your church and improving your broadcast mix, check out the information in the description of this video, and comment and let us know what it is that you've learned about broadcast mixing that has changed the game for you. If you've got any great tips or things that you've learned, share with us in the comments. We'd love to hear that. See you next time.